Welcome to the world of new normal. So the very first time you must be studying your live CA classes in this manner, all the way directly at home. So blessings from this pandemic that we got this opportunity to be part of this new mission, new turnaround in coaching industry, that live classes will now be directly from home to your home. By the way, I am not at home, I am at the institute itself, and I hope you all are safe at home. So initial few minutes I will be taking to guide you as to how we will study throughout this course. I hope my language is very clear to you. I am specifically doing these classes for English speaking students. I am very excited. It is as good as starting something very new for the first time. So in my past teaching career, I used to be a part of some reputed CA coaching institutes in Bangalore, and there I used to teach completely in English, both intermediate and finals. The journey there was discontinued in my urge to start something of my own, and from 2013, I have been teaching my own only at SJC Institute in Kolkata, but as the regional market demands here, everything is being taught in a basic Hindi and English mixed language here. So we have been receiving several requests from our students of South India who had been watching our YouTube videos, who had been mailing us on our SJC's email ID to provide them classes in English. Due to continuous schedule of the classes, we could not arrange enough time to give a dedicated batch for them. But this pandemic is basically an opportunity in disguise, a blessing in disguise for both of us, that we are able to do so in this SCMPE fast track full English batch. So guys, since this is live class, it has got several advantages over your recorded classes. The first and foremost is the discipline. Live classes brings a lot of discipline. Live classes brings a lot of discipline in doing the classes. Normally in pen drive recorded classes, we have seen that a course of 3 months or 3.5 months with a validity given for 6 months or 9 months or even a year is always lesser. A student is never completing the course in that allowed validity. It's just because of procrastination. When it is live class, you try to stick to schedule and the course gets over on time. That's the most advantageous situation in live class. And another advantage, as you can understand, is your interaction with me right during the class. So if you get stuck anywhere, you're free to interact with me, and right now in our portal this interaction is only with chat option. So you type chat and I see your query and I will respond to your query by voice. Second, in chat, as you can see, we have made it in a different way in our portal. You won't be able to see anyone else in the chat, and you won't be able to see any other friends chat in your mobile or your laptop, whichever device you're using. Sir, why sir? We must actually see what others are also doing. Now that's a big distraction, guys. If you see others, what they are typing, you get lost. So I wanted to keep it something like one-to-one. So you don't have any hesitation of asking anything like what others will think or what others will not. Right? So it's always between you and me. So whatever you will type, I will be able to see, and whatever I will type, you will be able to see. Okay? So when I am typing, everyone is usually able to see, and when you are typing anything, only I am able to see your query. So if any type of query is there, you can type and I will respond to you in chat. In chat means during the class I will respond. If anything personal is there, then I can talk personally after the class as well. In chat, of course. This chat will always remain stored in your video. It will remain stored with your video. So whenever you are doing the video recording of the same class, you can still see your chat, what you have sent to me at what time. Fine. Thirdly, you have been sent a Telegram group link. If you remember, an email that was received by you in your inbox from care@sjc.co.in right after the enrollment was successful. There we have sent Telegram group link to you in that email. Also, I have requested my team to send it to you by SMS. There I am actually updating you with all the new materials or whatever new updates I have to give, or if say there is any sudden change in class timing, or if there is no class due to any unavoidable circumstances, I will be updating first to you in Telegram. Many a time students don't join that, so they many times miss a lot of updates. So it's a request that you must be there in this Telegram group. This Telegram group is separate for English speaking students as compared to Hindi speaking students. Telegram group link, I have made actually this for students' own interaction. That means this is actually for interaction between your batchmates. Okay, this is for interaction between your batchmates. Many have joined and many will join later, maybe after seeing this video, or maybe when they will actually need it. So here in this Telegram group, you can help one another. That's the best part of this Telegram group. You can help one another. Got it? So you don't need to be dependent always on us, or you need not be always dependent on me. See, in our face-to-face classes, usually you get to interact with your batchmates, you make friends. But in digital classes, how will it be possible? So this is a Telegram group where our all batchmates are interacting with one another and trying to help out one another, making a network with one another. So Telegram maintains a lot of privacy as well as regards mobile number, etc. So that you can configure and try to help your friends whenever whatever they are asking in Telegram group. As regards anything you know, you can answer them. Don't mark us usually in Telegram group because we moderate Telegram group only, but we don't provide active or proactive support in Telegram groups usually. So for any kind of student support that you need from us, for that I am sharing you with email ID, which is care@sjc.co.in. This email ID is our student success support team. We call this team as student success team, who are only and only working to help you in each and every stage of your learning. So the moment you send any email to this email ID, a ticket will create, and that ticket will be followed by our automated system to ensure that your query is responded in as early as possible time. Usually the response is handled within 1 working day. If say you need some immediate assistance, then you can also call our helpline number 40593800. But this works in our office working time of 10 AM to 7 PM. Next, apart from this, for any kind of support related to Go Live portal, this portal in which we are doing classes now, there can be sometimes some hiccup in this portal, if any at your end. For this purpose, a separate support form link has already been shared to you in that same email ID, in that same email which was sent just after the enrollment, and it is also pinned in your Telegram group, There you will find this support form link. Once you fill that form with all the requisite details, and if the problem is related to live class, there can be 2 problems related to live class or doing video backup. If the problem is related to live class, our support team person has been instructed to handle it at earliest as possible. So they will call you back. You don't have to actually call them. They will call you back at earliest, at their urgent possible, fastest possible. And for video class, they may call you within same business day, within same working day. Business day is as good as working day. So you don't have to worry about this. You just write an email and wait for our team to come to you, or you fill up the form for Go Live specifically and let our technical support executive contact you. And for any specific one-to-one query with me, if any query is there with directly sir, if any one-to-one query you want my personal time, I am also available for that. And for that you have to note this link. Please copy this link, virtual.sjc.co.in/meetings/Satish Jalan. So when you type this link on any browser, you get an access to my calendar where I have already pre-allotted my time, daily some time for student interaction. There you can book 5 minutes, 10 minutes or 15 minutes time slot, and we can then interact online. So I will just suggest that you can try booking once in your initial week. At least once we should talk, we should get to know one another. Or if say you're not available, by chance yours and my time is not matching, I will expect at least once during your entire course we should interact at least once, or maybe towards the end of the course, whenever you feel comfortable. Okay, so just keep a note of this link. As of now, this is the way I am utilizing to interact with my students, and this is the way that you can always book a slot with me and talk with me one-to-one online, and you can always talk about anything you wish to, not just related to academics, anything where you think my suggestion can be helpful for you. 6th point is your books. For this specific batch, we have provided you with 3 books. One is your SCM Savior Fast Track. What is this SCM Savior Fast Track book? Fast Track book is basically a new book which I have made just for this specific batch for the very first time, by adding some pages here in our newly launched SCM Savior Summary book. Recently I launched SCM Savior Summary book, which is available for purchase for all outside students also. In that book only I added more pages to make this fast track book, and those pages are basically for solving some practical questions, because the Savior book originally is only a concept oriented theory book, but here I have added all the examples and concept related understanding in this book itself. So you don't need anything called SCM Savior book. If any of your friend recommends you to buy, you don't need, because you have SCM Savior Fast Track, which is including all the constituents of SCM Savior book, which is available in the market separately. Second book what I have provided you is SCM Divya Jadi Booty book, which is a one-stop practice book of all the questions of ICI materials, RTP, MTP, past paper. All other sources of ICI questions have been compiled here, and in this book I have eliminated all the repeat questions. I have kept only unique questions, and some questions have been modified to have better understanding. They have been organized in a better way, chapter wise, for your better understanding. This book is also available for outside public to buy, and they can buy from SJC website or Amazon, wherever they want. And this book I print usually 2 times a year, usually once in January, second in July. This is the cutoff time. We have been printing this book since almost 2 years now. More than 3,000 students have already availed this book, and the latest book that is already in circulation now has been provided to you. You can check in your Divya Jadi Booty book if you have it. In initial first or second page you will be able to see the edition, printed edition. Edition name must be there with some month, so that means this book was printed up till that month. Okay, so this book was printed with all the updates until that month. Okay, so the latest book has been given to you. The third book is SCM workbook. Now workbook is basically again a practice book, but this is having some sums of old syllabus which I feel that you must practice in order to make your concept clear. DJB is only covering sums of new syllabus, but workbook is covering some questions of old syllabus which are relevant for you to practice. If you do those sums, you get better grip over the subject. Both of these books are having solved questions, so if any question we take it as homework or self-practice, you can always refer the solutions and you can raise your queries, but you can always refer the solutions given here which are well authenticated. If any correction or any update is there in that, I will guide you towards that. Next, one most important thing to understand here is, see, when I am teaching you this course, I am teaching you today and I will complete this course in a certain month. For example, I will be completing this course by February, for example. So if I am completing the course by February, that means everything given by ICI until February 21 will be completed in this course. Sir, you said that your Divya Jadi Booty book has been printed in some month and that month is way before February. Then what about the new notes? How we will get those new notes? Those will be all provided through supplements. As in when time will come, I will be giving you some supplementary PDFs that you need to print yourself and study with me. So I'll be providing you with the link of all the PDFs in your Telegram groups or on our SJC website dashboard, so that you can use to update, and that will be taught in the class. But do remember that your exam may be after February 21. You may be writing your exam in May 21, or maybe in November 21, or maybe a little later than that. So you must know that whenever you are attempting the exam, you must be up to date before the exam. Just the way we say that in case of DT and IDT, you should be always up to date. I always recommend students that in case of cost accounting also you must be up to date. In case of this SCMPE also you must be up to date with all the questions issued by ICI just before your exam. So for that you need to follow our YouTube channel specifically, which is Satish Jalan Strategic Cost Management. I have made this specific channel just to update you with strategic cost management updates. Since I also teach SFM, so I have started also posting SFM update in that same channel. That means it is only for final level students. No inter students would come over here. It's only for final level student. In this channel, I keep updating all the videos that one needs to study before the exam. So whenever your course is complete, until that time I will cover everything within the batch, and whatever I share in the video post your batch completion before your exam, you need to follow our YouTube channel for the same and keep updating yourself. And in case of any doubt, you can always connect with me in our meeting link. And if say by chance this meeting link is having some problems or not matching with your time, for example, then you can always write to us on care@sgc. Our team will connect with you and guide you with what best can be done with the timings as well. Okay, so these are some basic ideas that we need to know whenever we start any batch. And if you have any questions in this 7 points that I shared with you, you can write in chat. I will answer you quickly. If you have any query, I will answer you in chat. Please do share any of your feelings, also any of your expectation if you have, or any query out of this if you have. Please do share. Ashmita, Abhilipsha, Jaishankar, Brijitesh. See, the flow of fast track classes would be how? Fast track will be a little accelerated class, whereby I will not allow you to write much. I will not allow you to write much because the notes that I have given you, the study materials that I have given you, covers everything that you need to write. Had you been a regular class student, I would have made you write a lot of stuffs. And there's an advantage of that. When you write, it always goes into memory as well. We learn usually by writing, so it becomes more spoon feeding kind of. But in our fast track, we'll be covering everything but less of writing. If it is less of writing, so we will be saving time in writing the stuffs. Okay, we'll be saving time in writing the stuffs. If you still want to write, what you can do is you will have access to videos which you can pause and then copy if you want. But still my recommendation would be you don't need to write, because whatever you need to write will be already there printed in your notes. The notes is actually the type matter of a student's copy. The notes that I am given here in SCM Savior is nothing but the type matter of a student's notebook of our regular batch, and that have been improvised many times to bring it to this level. So you don't need to write anything, and this way we will be accelerating our course. Some sums I will be solving with you, and some sums I will be giving you as homework for self-practice. Since all are solved questions, I may not pick up some solved questions again in the class if it have been given as homework. I will be doing key questions with you specifically by writing, and other questions I will guide you with the tricks, I will guide you with the approach. since solution will all be there, that you need to practice by own. So how regular and fast track gets differentiated, it's just that regular has more handhold guidance, as in each and every sum is done in the class itself, but fast track will have more self orientation approach. That means you need to understand the concept with me, you need to do some tricky sums with me, and then you need to also understand some approaches of other questions with me, and then you need to solve the sums by your own after the class. And for any sort of query after that, I'm always available with you to bring you back on track. So Jay Shankar is having one question. The study material I have with me is of Jan 19. Is that enough for this batch? Are you talking about ICI study material? Are you talking about ICI study material? If you have these 3 books, you don't need ICI study material. If you have these 3 books, you don't need ICI study material, because whatever is given over there is all covered over here. You don't have to touch anything else. I will be providing you more supplements as and when the time will come. Got it? So we are all set, guys. We are all set. I hope the message is entirely clear. So now I must start my first chapter. So before first chapter is started, I will show you all the 3 books. The current soft copy that I am using is of SCM Savior Fast Track. You are not entitled to receive soft copy of entire book. You are not entitled to receive. But still, first chapter has been uploaded on your SJC website dashboard. What is SJC website dashboard, sir? If you log in sjc.co.in, then from there my account can be accessed. From there my courses can be accessed. In my courses, you search for SCMPE Fast Track with the batch that you have enrolled for, SCMPE Fast Track, and in that view class slides button will be there, and there you can download some of the PDFs which I will be providing you, as well as I will be giving some PDFs in our Telegram group. It's not that all PDFs are given in Telegram, some are given in Telegram group, but all we provide through view class slides. Telegram group, I don't provide all the PDFs. Sometimes I may provide, I may not, but all PDFs will be provided through view class slides, whatever we give. Currently first chapter has been given because there are students joining late in the batch and they may receive study material a little late, so they can download first chapter's PDF from view class slides. Whatever I will write over here, that also I will upload in this class slides section, chapter by chapter, not class by class. I will upload at the end of every chapter, not at the end of every class. But still, if you need to write anything at the end of class, after the class is over, within half an hour, usually you should get the video of the class. After the class is over, within half an hour, the video will be available in the portal itself, and then you can always check and go to respective part where you want to write. That way you can always write the notes if you wish to, but still you should follow my instruction whether to write or not, and that would be helpful for you during revision also. Got it? So this is your SCM Savior Fast Track, a very innovative book. Here I have given you revision sequence for the day before exam, which you will refer a day before. In this there are 4 blocks, in the not 4, 5 blocks in which I have divided your entire syllabus. So when you revise, I always suggest that you can revise any block at a time, maybe block B first, but whenever you revise all the chapters of a block together. So that saves a lot of time because they may have some interlink or interconnections. Okay, So when you revise block C, revise all 3 chapters of block C together. It saves a lot of your time. I have made this special kind of content here, A to Z content, which is nothing but several topics of our syllabus made as a chapter. I have intentionally made some of the topics as a chapter so that there is an importance to study those topics. You should not skip that topic at any chance. So we have made certain topics as chapter. This is very helpful the day before your exam when you have to just revise a specific topic. You can just search from A to Z sorted names and go to that respective page and revise that and come back. Lastly, ICI MAT you already have. Whatever edition doesn't matter, but still the content of ICI MAT is very important. So as per ICI MAT, this is the content, and the breakup of that content is given in my chapter names, and for that page number is also given. I will not follow the sequence of ICI MAT. I will follow some different sequence which will help us to cover the syllabus smoothly. And my first chapter that I will pick up with you with reference to ICI material is strategic analysis of operating income. And here you can see that there are 2 chapters, activity based cost management and strategic analysis of operating income. So I will do this 2 chapter first with you, and then I will open my next card, that is basically the next chapter. Alright, there is a bird's eye view for the questions asked in past examination. Don't get carried away with anything what is being predictable from here, because institute never follows any specific trend. Okay, so I will just say don't get carried away. It is just for our knowledge or just for our comprehensive preparation. We never follow this specific pattern of asking questions. Institute never follows that, so you cannot trust on this kind of analysis ever in your exam. Okay, but still, in case pressure is there and you still want to know that whether this particular topic or chapter is important or not, so you can always take a chance with some of the topics like these from which never any questions have been asked, right? So I will not again suggest that you should follow this. It is just existing for the sake of existing. All right, so guys, we are ready for our first chapter, activity based cost management. Are you ready? Activity based cost management. For live classes, one of critical success factor is availability of internet. So if in any case you feel that your internet is breaking, don't worry about this. You always have the video access of your classes, so you don't miss anything. And the same issue can also happen on my side. If it happens, the screen will go black. It may happen during the session also for 1 or 2 seconds or maybe less than that. So if it happens, just ignore, carry on with the class, because internet speed is just like our heart's ECG rate, which keeps going up and down. It cannot be controlled. We cannot have a continuous sustained supply of bandwidth. So sometimes it may happen that 1 second, 2 seconds is there. If a broad lag is there, I will always communicate to you by way of Telegram or by way of the chat over here. The chat never expires. It doesn't consume a lot of internet. Video consumes a lot of internet. So if any kind of issue from my side would be there, I will be communicating to you straight in chat. So don't worry about this, and don't try to flood again with the Telegram group also. Just try to wait for my confirmation in the chat sorry, as to how I am handling the situation. Okay, can you please excuse me for a second? Thank you. So friends, I am starting your first chapter, activity based cost management. Our agenda is to cover each and every chapter, not just the important chapter. So if you have to know what is the importance of this chapter or weightage of this chapter in exam, institute has never defined any weightage for any specific chapter. You can analyze it by your own, seeing the bird's eye view trend. Okay, but anyhow, I never suggest that you go on those trend. You follow the concepts and do each and every chapter. To start with activity based costing, or rather activity based cost management, ABCM, I will first ask you to just listen to what I am discussing with you. Don't write anything down. Okay, please do not write anything. Just listen to what I am discussing with you. Don't write anything, because as I already said, we want to save time, and time will be mostly saved by avoiding writing. And if you don't write, then how will you keep the important things to remember? Everything is well written in this book. I will show you, and if required wherever to be written, I will write along with you in this book itself. So when I will be discussing this, don't write anything. Just pay attention to listening. Always remember, a student learns more by listening than by writing. It has been proven in our Shastras as well. All the scholars have always said that listening is only the best way of learning, not writing is the best way of learning. So writing, you don't have to worry, you just listen. Focus on listening. Try to listen in a manner that you will not forget throughout your life. Don't just listen for the upcoming exam. Try to listen in a manner that you will not forget the concept for life. And this has been a fact with all our students in past. Whenever they have paid a little attention to the concept that I had shared with them, they had remembered always it like lifetime learning. It was never like the learning for the day before exam. Okay, so ABCM. First of all, I will tell you the background. Why ABCM? Why activity based cost management has come? Okay, so for that, we'll start with discussion of costing. When we say costing, it is about estimation of cost of a product or a service. It is about estimation of cost of a product or a service. What is costing? Costing is about estimation of cost of a product or a service. Got it? Now, it seems a very easy sentence over here, since you have been hearing about this from your intermediate level. But there are a lot of challenges when we do this costing. What are the challenges? Let us understand. Typically, an organization has a long list of expenses. Long list. In order to be able to study this list precisely, we came up with idea of classification of cost or grouping of cost. So we thought that the items of similar nature should be grouped in certain head, and therefrom the concept came as a group named direct material. Direct material is a group of cost, then direct labor, then direct expenses, then overheads. In overheads also you can do subgrouping as production overhead, admin overhead, selling overhead, research and development overhead, quality control overhead. All these names you already know. Now, there are some cases whereby certain expenses, when you see here, are not allowed to be grouped under the purview of cost subject. Those are something called as financial expenses. If you remember, we don't take it in cost accounting. Okay, so for the time being, understand that I am studying only those items of expenses here which are allowed to be considered in cost accounting subject. Okay, So these are our group of expenses or heads of expenses. Now why we are studying this? Our aim is to find the cost of a product or a service. So say we have a product or service here whose cost we want to ascertain. So when we are ascertaining this cost, we are again regrouping this in the name of variable cost and fixed cost. What are variable costs? Variable costs are product related costs. The typical definition is the costs that are incurred only when a certain volume of a product is produced. If no volume, then there will be no cost. If high volume, high cost. If low volume, low cost. What are fixed costs? Fixed costs are periodic costs or period costs which would be incurred even if you do not produce anything. Period related cost. If time will pass, you will have to make the payment of this cost. If time will pass, you will have to make the payment of this cost. So out of these four heads, material, labor, expense and overheads, all the direct costs have been always considered as variable cost. Always. Okay. And whenever we want to estimate the product or service cost, we always think it this way. Okay, if this is a product, then what are the variable costs associated with the product? Say this is a bottle, a product. Okay. Now, if I have to estimate the cost of this bottle, I will first see what are the costs that would be incurred only when this bottle will be produced. There will be some plastic that we are buying. There will be some color that we are using. There will be some mold or dies that we will be using to create the shape of this bottle, and there would be workers who would be working for it, and there would be workers who would be working for it. Correct? So these are some of the variable costs. What are these? These are some of the variable costs which will be incurred only when the products would be produced. Interestingly, whenever we estimate the cost, the variable costs are always estimated very precisely and accurately, because you can always check it by trying to produce one more unit. If one unit is increased, what is the additional cost? So they have been always estimated very precisely by any organization. The problem was there with the fixed cost. How much of fixed cost should go into this product? Why? Because fixed costs are never related to any of the product, but indirectly they have relation to our production system only. If we are not producing these bottles, then why will we incur the fixed cost also? But there is no direct relation with the production. So there came a system called as absorption costing. Absorption costing, also called as traditional costing system. Absorption costing, also called as traditional costing system, whereby we came up with some structured way of including this fixed cost. Usually overheads are assumed to be fixed cost. Absorption costing assumes all fixed overheads are fixed in nature. Assumes overheads are fixed in nature. Okay, although we also understand that some overheads can be variable, but absorption costing assumes all overheads are fixed in nature. That means all are period related cost. So how to charge this fixed cost to the product cost? How to charge for this absorption costing was actually conceived. Okay. So how to charge, for that I am going to talk with you for some time, and this was your intermediate overheads chapter. You can just quickly recall what you have studied in your intermediate level. So what we usually have here is production departments, and then we have service departments, if you remember. So it says that whatever list of expenses you have, this all list of expenses, you must divide it into production and service departments by using steps called as cost allocation. So for example, we have 2 production department and 2 service department named like this. So first would be cost allocation. Allocation means taking one specific item of cost and identifying to which department it belongs to and giving the whole of that cost to that specific department. Allocation means straight away pick and drop. Pick this cost and drop where it is applicable. Okay. So example can be, say, generator department's diesel cost. Say there is a diesel cost included in the list. So you will check the diesel cost and you will put it under the head of generator department. So if say X is a generator department, you will put it directly under X. This is allocation. Allocation means whoever's cost it is, you just give it directly to that department. You don't have to distribute it. Then second step comes for cost apportionment. Cost apportionment is about distributing the cost in some basis to all the departments. For example, rent can be distributed on the basis of floor area. You know this already. So here we will be distributing the cost to all the departments on some equitable basis or appropriate basis. Equitable means appropriate basis, not equal. I am saying equitable. So with this, the total that comes is called as cost as per primary distribution. You remember primary distribution. After primary distribution, what we do is reapportionment. Reapportionment is cancelling out the service department expenses and transferring it to production department. Used to have several methods: direct method, step ladder, repeated distribution, simultaneous equation. So you can follow any method, whatever is applicable in your organization. So after this, what you get is total cost of total cost of production departments, total cost of production departments after reapportionment, and service department cost has come to production department itself. And after that, you actually take certain basis for overhead recovery rate. That basis is usually of any of the 6 types. If it is production overhead, the basis can be quantity produced. If it is production overhead, it can be labor hours, it can be machine hours, it can be direct labor cost, it can be direct material cost. You don't have to write, dear. Please don't waste time in writing. Just focus on listening. Whenever time will come to write, I will guide you. Don't worry about that. You just focus on listening. Prime cost. When we use these, it has got some specific cases. Like quantity produced is used when the company produces only one single product always. So we don't want to complicate the basis that time. We just understand that all cost needs to be recovered from whatever we produce. So single product quantity produced basis is used. Whenever multiple products we are producing, we use any of these after quantity produced. All are multiple products cases. But labor hours is used when all work is manual in nature in our factory. We use machine hours when all work is automated. We use labor cost when we are having different grades of workers who are earning same rate of pay. So this is direct labor cost. Then material cost we use when material decides the amount of overheads. Sometimes material is such nature that it will decide how much overhead we need to incur. And prime cost we use when we keep producing a standard product which has got no variation in its material or labor over the period. For example, Britannia biscuits. So if we are producing a standard product all over again and again, then what we are using is prime cost. So all these were intermediate syllabus. I am just trying to bring it back in your mind, because you need all these when you're doing analysis in your case study based questions. You must be having this information already from your friends in your surrounding, that costing paper is very, very now critical because of its case study pattern of questions. So case study you won't be able to handle until unless you know in and out of a concept. So there is always a reason why I am devoting my time to discuss all these with you. Okay, so if you want, you can also see some analysis here, like there are say two departments, for example, department A and department B. Just the above only I am copying over here. Production department AB is there, so I have also department A and department B. Okay, so total overhead here after primary and secondary distribution is coming 5 lakh and 10 lakh. Okay, so if say I am producing only one product whose quantity produced I know is 10,000, so what I can do is, I can just take the rate of overhead based on the quantity produced of that product, and overhead rate per unit will come, which is 5 rupees here and 10 rupees here, 50 rupees and 100 rupees here, overhead rate per unit. And you can also say that overhead rate per unit will be 150 rupees. That means you can also find this way the overhead rate, 15 lakh divided by 10,000 units will be 150 rupees, not 10 plus 10, 20. You're not producing 20. Product is only one and you are producing 10,000 units of the same. So 5 lakh is also chargeable to 10,000, 10 lakh is also chargeable to 10,000, and this 15 lakh is also chargeable to 10,000. So when you are finding separate rate for each department, we call it as departmental rate. What we call it as departmental rate. And when we are finding a combined rate, we call it as blanket or single rate. So as you can see, there is no difference here when you are actually trying to compute the cost with departmental and blanket. So when you will write the cost of this product, overhead cost will come as 150 in departmental also and in blanket also 150. So since there is no difference between the two, you can use any of the two. So we say when there will be difference, usually when you are producing multiple varieties of product and each of the product are being produced in your departments for different length of time. Say I am producing table, chair, sofa. So if I am producing 3 different products and I have multiple departments, of course our products will be produced for different time in each of the department. You cannot have table produced in same time as that of chair, correct? So if that is the case, then you find always rates using departmental rate. But if you find that we are producing always single product, or say if all the products whatever we produce are of almost similar nature and each and every department works in same manner as any other department, say department A works as good as department B and everything that department A does can be done also in department B, then in that case we use blanket rate. If say you have several varieties of product in your company and one product needs to pass through only department A but another product needs to pass through both department A and B, if that is the scenario, you will use departmental rate. But if you have 2 products, both of the products needs to pass from both the departments and both the products require almost same time in both the departments, then you can use blanket rate. So blanket rate is used when the similarity is there, okay, in processing or in the products, or if there is only one product. And departmental is used when there is no similarity, when there can be different ways of processing a product, okay, or if different products requires different resources. So there is departmental, there is blanket rate. You can have, instead of quantity produced, labor hours as basis, as I discussed. So rate will be then per labor hour. The rate will come as per labor hour, okay. And when do we use labor hour instead of quantity produced? We use labor hour whenever we have multiple products. For example, say department A and B is there and total overhead for both is known, 5 lakh, 10 lakh, and you know that you are producing a table which is being produced in 50 hours in department A, and in department B, say 50 hours is too much, I am reducing the time. In department A it is taking 5 hours and in department B it is taking 2 hours. You see different time is there, okay. So one product is requiring different timing in each of the department, and say the departments are also working differently, they don't have the same functions. Then how should I calculate the overhead cost of this product? So how will it be done? First of all, what I will do is I will not find now quantity produced of table and chair. Why? Because if say I do that, I will be only producing one product. I am producing table, chair, sofa, everything. Okay. So if I am producing 100 units of this, 100 units of this table, and say 200 units of chair, and say we are producing 50 units of sofa, I cannot add this 3 as 350. Just like you cannot add 2 kg and 1 gram as 3. 2 kg and 1 gram cannot be added. So this 3 cannot be added. You cannot add quantity produced. What you can find is your working hours for all these 3 combined, whatever you have worked. For example, both are here given as 10,000 and here it is given as 50,000, for example. So overhead rate per hour will come, it will come as 50 rupees, and here it will be 10 lakh by 50,000 is 20 rupees, I guess. Can you just cross check whether I am correct or not? 5 lakh by 10,000 is 50 rupees, and then 10 lakh by 50,000 is 20 rupees. So based on this rate, now I can charge the two departments cost to table 50 and 20. Now chair costing also will be more accurate, A and B. Say chair is produced in 1 hour and 2 hour here, so it will be 50 and at the rate 20. So each of the product will show different cost. We say departmental system is more costly than blanket system. So you will get at the same time more accurate costing in departmental system than blanket system. So it depends on your organization's costing investment, how much you want to invest in the costing procedures. Okay, what is the importance of arriving this accurate cost? If still you feel that this is a miniature organization whereby this difference in cost won't matter us a lot, then go by blanket, because that will be quite simple, less costly, but it won't be very accurate like your departmental system. Got it? So this understanding needs to be developed. You can use, instead of working hours, labor hours, machine hours, then you can use direct labor cost. Direct labor cost and labor hours will always show same result of overhead cost allocation if you have different workers earning same rate of pay. Like what I mean to say from here is, say your overhead is your total 10 lakhs, okay, and working hours is say 1 lakh. So what is your overhead rate per hour? Overhead rate per hour is 10 rupees per hour. And if say there is a product whose hour requirement is say product name is Q, whose hour required is say 2 hours. So what will be the overhead cost that you will charge to this product? 10 into 2, it will become 20 rupees, correct? Now for instance, assume that these hours are for different set of workers who are earning same rate of pay. Say their rate of pay is, for example, 50 rupees per hour. Okay, so what will be the total labor cost? 50 into 1 lakh is 50 lakh. So what would be the overhead rate per rupee of labor cost? 10 lakh divided by 50 lakh. 10 lakh divided by 50 lakh is coming 20% of labor cost. So now this product Q, whose hour required is 2, and the workers are same for this product Q also, so they are also earning at the rate of 50 rupees per hour. So overhead cost based on hours is coming 20 rupees. How? If you remember, 10 into 2. Now overhead cost based on labor cost will be what? It is 20% of labor cost. And what is the labor cost of this product Q? It is 2 into 50, 100. So 20% of 100 is also 20 rupees. You see, what I was trying to communicate is labor cost calculation and labor hours calculation is just the same result always. Both will give you the same result. If you meet the condition. So these are all same. We say no, same sides of a coin. So they result into same answers of product cost if you follow this closely. And they have been actually used by different companies in different circumstances, and they prove that okay, this can be the solution or that can be the solution. Okay, it's now machine hours, material cost, prime cost will never give you the same solution. They will give you different solution. But labor hours and labor cost gives the same solution if your workers are having same rate of pay. I hope you have understood this entire fundamental of absorption costing. Absorption costing, I'll just do a quick run through, does what? It solves a problem of charging the overhead cost to the products by assuming overheads are all fixed in nature. By assuming overheads are all fixed in nature. That is absorption costing. It solves the challenge of how much of overheads should we charge to the product cost. And how it handles this? It says that you should have a list of expense that you should first apportion among your departments and then reapportion the service department cost to the production departments, and then select a suitable basis that suits your overheads or the business method, and then based on that you divide total cost of production department with the basis to find out the rate. The rate can be per unit, per hour, as a percent of labor cost or material cost, and use that rate to charge the cost to the product. Okay, so product cost in some basis can be same, but in some basis it can be different. So whatever comes, you have to accept this, and this overheads, you know, are called as overhead absorbed. Whatever we are charging here are called as overhead absorbed. At the end of the period, you always, you know, match this overhead absorbed with how much you have incurred. Your incurred overhead can still be different because all these are somehow some base of estimation going on. So you will match this absorbed with that of actual overhead to find out under absorbed or over absorbed, if you remember. And then accordingly you need to treat those under absorbed, over absorbed amount. Under absorption is loss, over absorption is profit. Under absorption is loss and over absorption is profit. So this is absorption costing. Absorption costing has got one limitation. What is that limitation? Absorption costing always allocate more cost to those products which are produced in high volume. Now you have a basic understanding of costing that whenever we do any work with high volume, our cost per unit should be lower, isn't it? Economies of scale, we say that. Whenever you do a task with large volume, your cost per unit has to be lower. So in my factory, if I am producing one product with large volume, so my factory is same, it is using just this much infrastructure and large volume is produced, so cost per unit should be lower. But absorption costing doesn't follow this. What it does is, it will always give you more cost for more volume. And the products which are produced in low volume, absorption costing will give low cost to that. Total lower cost will come. Lower cost will be there because volume is less. Because absorption costing is also called as volume based costing system. It focuses more on volume. So if per unit overhead rate you have seen here, okay, if I am calculating the cost of 100 units, it will be multiplied by 100. If I am calculating per unit and then I am calculating for 200 units, it will be multiplied by 200. So the more the volume, the more would be the cost of such product. Correct. Ideally, the products produced in large volume should have lower cost per unit, and the products produced in small volume should have higher cost. Absorption costing doesn't understand this. Okay, so this has got some limitation. However, it is still useful because it is simple, because it is not very complex, it is not very costly to do this kind of costing. Okay, it was first used pre-Second World War phase, when there was in some companies an urge to produce and to help the nation, and they were trying to produce in as much large quantity as they can. There was a revolution at that time called as mass production. So when mass production was going on, they were earning huge revenue also. So that time they were not much worried about the costing system. Now this was fine in our world post Second World War until 1950s. If you remember a bit of history, during 1950s there was an industrial revolution whereby whatever machineries were invented pre-World War were all got developed in more sophisticated manner post Second World War, and even the government of several countries focused more on invention of machineries and some techniques that can help an organization to grow or to produce more and more. Because post Second World War, not every country was able to produce. There was a need in international market as well. So every company was investing a lot on technological upgradation, use of best of sophisticated machineries in order to be able to produce more. As a result, what happened? The entire business environment got a different outlook, which people had never imagined before. So what were the changes? Let us understand the changes in the business environment. First, previously there was no competition as such. Now, because of ease of know-how of how to produce more, there are increasing competition. Second, previously companies were able to survive themselves with just one product. Now they cannot survive with one product. They need to produce multiple varieties of product. If they don't, they won't be able to recover their cost of investments. They won't be able to capture the market share that they wish to. So competition was not there, now it is there. Previously single product, now multiple products. Multiple products also is coming with wide variety. For each product there is a different range of variations. Just say for example, if there is a smartphone, then smartphone coming in different variations of this much pixel camera, that much pixel camera, and then there are extra storage in the smartphones. Like that, variations are being added. Previously work were all manual, now automated, highly automated. Previously consumer was not that much aware about the choices available to them, but now because supply is increasing, everyone is coming into manufacturing business, so consumer is also becoming aware, because everyone doing their promotions, consumer is reading everything and they are becoming aware. So consumers market is becoming more prevalent. Previously it was sellers market, now it is buyers market. Previously, since our infrastructure was not too much, our direct is to indirect cost were 100:20. Now it is becoming 100:800. Previously in our factories there were no much facility requirement. Facility means infrastructure, but now heavy facilities required to run with heavy machineries. Previously the production department is to support department ratio was hardly 3:1. Now it is increasing to 3:8 and 3:10 in some cases. So to ensure that 3 production departments are running continuously, we need to have 8 to 10 support department facilitating them. And if we don't facilitate, they will have breakdowns. And if they have breakdowns, we will run into losses. If they need to be profitable, they need to make it continuous, make it run continuously, maybe 24/7. To run a machine 24/7, you should understand that how much of support you need to provide to machineries also. So this is the changing era. We call it as modern business environment, whereby consumers are driving the market. You cannot drive your own market. Now consumer is more aware of what they need, and they don't want to pay anything extra beyond their need. They only want to pay what they need. Okay. So for instance, what was happening previously, try to understand. Let me come to in today's example. I presume you all are working in some office. Okay. Say in your office there is one department called as income tax department. Say named as department A, income tax department. Okay. Now in income tax department you do several types of activities called as return preparing, return uploading, then assessment procedures, okay, then search seizure work, scrutiny, physical hearing with income tax department. There are several kinds of work, and for that you have some people devoted for the specific work. But what your firm does is they are calculating the entire cost of income tax department always, dividing it by the man hours that we can work in that department, and they are having a rate for entire income tax department for 1 man hour. If one man is working in for 1 hour in income tax department, they will be charging their client a certain rate. Now a client comes who is well aware of what can happen everywhere, and he is only asking that I have done everything for my income tax return. I just want you to upload this via your computer system and personnel because I am having some computer breakdown. Now just to upload this, how much cost you will levy on your client? If it is traditional absorption costing, you will be having only income tax department's cost and the cost per man hour of the entire income tax department. So whenever anyone will come, if he uses 1 hour of yours, you will be charging the entire cost of income tax department for 1 hour to that person. How is it legitimate, you tell me? Will that person come again in your firm? Never they will step into your firm. If say, he will always say that why you are charging so much. He will always step back and think again. He will go to some cyber cafe and do his job. He will not come to you. Because you are charging the entire cost of department, whereby you are having some specialized professionals to handle income tax hearing physically, then search seizure procedures, then assessment procedures. He is only asking for a small activity, small job, but for that you don't have a separate rate. What do you do? So that's the need coming in the costing system. If we don't actually alter our costing system, we are visualizing that we might get lost in this business environment. We might not exist in future because it is consumer driven now. So in order to accommodate this change, a need of new costing system had came. These all recommendations went to several academic institutions, and one of the scholar named Dr. Robert Kaplan acted for this in Harvard University by analyzing some scenarios in some of the companies there, and he came up with a new costing system called as activity-based costing system. He came up with this new costing system for all of us, whereby he suggested some of the alterations in our existing system. What are those alterations? I will start it just after I show you first what I have taught you until now is all well written over here or not. So let us come to this first chapter now and watch whatever I have taught is all pre-written beautifully or not. If anything needs to be added, we'll add right over here. Use pencil for better noting. Otherwise, if there is mistake in any kind of noting, you may face some scribbles and all, which will be creating trouble at the time of last minute revision. So first we have talked here, see traditional versus modern environment. Traditionally companies were having single product, now multiple product, narrow range, wide variety, labor intensive, manual job, now capital intensive, that means automated. Previously no such competition, now fierce competition. No facilities means no such investment on our, no much investment on our infrastructure, but here we are investing high facilities. Direct is to indirect, 100 is to 20, now 100 is to 800. Production is to support 3 is to 1, now 3 is to 8. So all these I have already covered. Now under absorption costing, you should understand that it tend to allocate. This is limitation of absorption costing, and this is only the basic principle of absorption costing, that it allocates high cost to high volume products, too great a proportion of overheads to high volume products. But ideally high volume products are consuming less of your facilities, because in the same facilities their quantity is more, so per unit consumption is less, but absorption costing doesn't understand this. So which cause little diversity. Diversity means different variety of resources, and use fewer support services. But absorption costing has got its limitation. Here what is happening, too small a proportion of overheads to low volume products. In low volume products it will allocate low cost. So this is the limitation of absorption costing. Then there is the cost sheet of absorption costing. Material, labor, prime cost. You may or may not write prime cost, that doesn't matter much. Then factory overheads absorbed, overhead absorption rate into actual basis. Department A and B is there, total cost is there. Next, overhead absorption rate, it is separate for each department. Overhead absorption rate is separate for each department. If you are finding departmental rate, it is budgeted overhead by budgeted basis. Budgeted overhead, for this budgeted overhead I can make you write here, absorption costing assumes, you can write this sentence with me, absorption costing assumes overhead to be fixed. Preferred that you write with pencil, but if you are confident to write with pen, that you will not scribble, then you can continue. Budgeted basis, basis can be any of 6 types, so 6 names are here: quantity produced, labor hour, machine hour, labor cost, material cost, and prime cost. And when which should be used, that is also well noted here. Single product companies, multiple product labor intensive, multiple product machine intensive, when workers employed at same wage rate, when products material dominates the overheads, and prime cost is for standard products. Got it? Prime cost is for standard products. Okay, now you can write one more point over here, third point. Overhead rate can be departmental or blanket. Overhead rate can be departmental or blanket. Overhead rate can be departmental or blanket, right? So this I have already discussed until now. I have talked about the environment change. I have talked with you the entire absorption costing system. So let me come to you to share about absorption activity based costing, the new system. Activity based costing, it was actually conceived by scholar named Dr. Robert Kaplan. Robert Kaplan. You can search about him, he's alive. You can search about him in Google, see his pic, watch some of his videos in YouTube if you want. So Dr. Robert Kaplan, what he suggested, that when you are finding product cost, usually it has got two components, as you know, variable cost and fixed cost, or to be more precise, direct material, direct labor, and then overheads, right? So what we were doing in absorption costing is we were dividing the overheads into different departments through primary and secondary distribution. Now he is saying that don't go by departments. Try to identify what we do inside a department, which we call as activities. Say activity 1, activity 2, activity 3, activity 4, activity 5, activity 6, something like this. You can have one activity in one department. You can have 3 activities in one department. Like I just shared, in income tax department, you are doing income tax return preparing, then you are uploading. Then there is someone who goes for hearing with income tax department. There is someone who understands search Caesar matter well. So whenever there is a raid, he goes to attend there. So there are several activities that we are doing within the same department. You need to list down the activities, and when you are finding cost or apportioning the cost by way of allocation and apportionment, you apportion the cost to your activities rather than the departments now. So from this you will have cost of your activities. Now there can be scenario that some of the activities you may find that they are almost interrelated, so they can be grouped together. So you should not have too many names for activities. Try to group the similar activities in one particular heading only. So say you have thought that this can be brought to A1, say you have thought that A5 can be brought with A3, A6 can be grouped with A2. So this way what you got is your total cost of each activity. Say I have eliminated A4, A5, A6. It's not that you have to have 2 or 3. You can have any number of activities. I am just sharing that, say by the allocation and apportionment process, we now are left with only 3 activities. So we have just 3 activities which we think that they should have their distinct identity. So previously what we were having is departments. Now instead of that department we are having activities. From those activities, now identify the basis for each activity. Previously we were having basis for departments like material cost, labor cost, prime cost, labor hour, machine hour. You have to now identify basis for these activities whose cost have been accumulated. And this basis, I cannot give you any list for this. It totally depends on the nature of activity. Say there is an activity called as machining, then the basis will be machine hours. If there is an activity called as inspection, then it will be number of batches inspected. If there is an activity called as machine setup, then it will be number of batches set up. So if there is an activity called as material handling, then it will be number of material movements. What possibilities can exist, that we will take up later, but right now I cannot give you any 6 names or 5 names that if you memorize this your job will be done. It totally depends on the activities, and every organization can have its own set of activities. So what you have to do is you have to identify the basis in such a manner that if I increase this, this cost will increase. That means this cost will increase. If I decrease this, this cost will decrease. Such kind of bases are called as cost drivers. What we call them? Cost drivers. Drivers means this will drive the cost upward or downward. It may increase our cost or it may decrease our cost. It may either increase our cost or it may decrease our cost. These are called as what? Cost drivers. What we call them? We call them as cost drivers. And it will totally depend on our activity. So you will have, by dividing this to activity rates, By dividing this 2, you will get the activity rates. Now while calculating the product cost, material labor coming as usual, because there was never any challenge in absorption costing scenario also, it is easy to estimate them as at accurate level, but overheads will be now charged at activity levels instead of department levels. You will have names of activities, you have rate of each activities, which is we call as activity rate per driver, and then you will have to multiply how much of driver is being consumed in your product. Say this activity rate is 20 rupees per machine hour. So you need to find out how much machine hour this product is consuming. Using that, you will be multiplying rate into driver to get the cost of each of the activity, and this way the product cost will come. So it was understood that if we are using this costing system, we will be more detailed. Like I said now, in blanket it is easy, but it is not accurate. Departmental is costly costing system, but it will give you accurate estimate. So activity based costing is a fine tune of departmental overhead rate by breaking department cost into activities. So it is more detailed, so more costly, as well as it will serve your accuracy of costing of products. So now if say in one specific department, previously say department A was a cutting department for instance, and here we were producing table, chair, sofa, 3 products, table, chair, sofa. There is one specific machine which we have installed in this department which is only used for sofa, not for table, chair. In our previous costing system, what will happen? We have the total overhead, which is including the cost of that special machine which is only used for sofa. We have total hours, we have rate per hour. So this rate per hour only will be used for table, chair and sofa. So if there is a special machine only for sofa, that cost will not go only to sofa, that cost will go to all the 3 products that you are producing in the department. This was the problem. So in activity based costing, what will happen? That special machinery cost will be segregated as a separate activity whose cost will be only going to the product where it is being used. So in case of sofa's product cost, you will be using that activity, so their cost will come. In case of table and chair, you will not have that activity, so that cost will not come. So whatever activity is not applicable to a product, you will not take its cost. If applicable, you will take it. Got it? Like say in banks, when we get any account opened, you must have seen the schedule of charges that they send to us. All of them are activity based costing. How it is? For new checkbook, this is the charge. For bank statement, this is the charge. For NEFT, this is the charge. For check return, this is the charge. For registering any mandate or standing instruction, this is the charge. So they charge you only on activity, not a blanket charge for you use their service or not. Got it? So if they wouldn't have resorted to activity based costing, the entire banking system would have collapsed. We wouldn't have been a part of banking system. If they would have charged a blanket cost to all of us, we would have never opened any account with them. They are able to reach millions of people. Why? Because they are charging them only as much the service they are using from bank. Got it? And for basics, what they do is they take our funds, they require us just to maintain a minimum balance, and they use that fund to earn some money. And from that, in savings account, they give us some return of interest. In current account, they don't give, because from that money, they earn more money, and against that, they are giving us free services. So that's how they are managing their pricing. So if activity-based costing wouldn't have been there, probably we wouldn't have been part of banking system. Similarly is the case of Vodafone, Jio, Airtel, all these are coming in the same pattern. Now what happens is sometimes some companies make a different system that they are leaving a fixed charge whether or not you use their service or not. For example, in case of hotels, if you are booking a room for a night, you have to pay a fixed charge. That that right is also for using all the basic amenities of the hotel. Now Wi-Fi is free, swimming pool is free, or say any kind of lawn or activity that they are doing is free. Now you are not paying them separate charges for each of such activities. So they are still following traditional system. Sometimes some companies follow a mix of traditional and activity based costing. So they will charge for specific things on traditional system, and if you are adding food as per your choice, then only whatever you order, that food will be charged. If you are adding airport pickup and drop, then for whatever you take from them for extra, you have to pay them. Okay, so they are having a mix of traditional and activity based costing. Bank is completely activity based costing. Some you will find only activity, some you will still find traditional. All are existing. It's not that traditional has become extinct now. All are existing. It depends on their business situation. It depends on their, again, intention to incur such cost. Now, if you have understood the concept, if I ask you now, what are the steps that you need to follow to do activity based costing implementation? What are the steps that you need to follow to implement activity based costing system? Can you guide step number 1, 2, 3? Can you type? I want to see your understanding. Be my consultant. My organization is there where I am teaching you cost accounting subject, SCMPE subject. Okay, so I have an infrastructure whereby I want to implement activity based costing system. I am following traditional system right now with you all. Why? Because whether or not you avail my video backup service or not, whether or not you avail my live class or not, whether or not you come to my face-to-face class or not, I am charging you a fixed amount. Okay, so this is traditional system. I want to switch to ABC. Can you guide with some of the steps that I need to think? I'm waiting for your answers in chat box. Bijitesh has answered. Identify the major activities in the operations of your organization. Perfect. So I will mark this as step 1, identifying activities. Correct. Second answer. So your participation is very important since you are doing live class, else I wouldn't have compelled you. I would have said the answer myself. Jay Shankar is saying trying to understand revenue generation. Understand business model first. Okay, identifying activities will obviously require understanding the business model. That is true. But identifying activities, step 1. Step number 2 is to identify the cost of each activity and related activities to be grouped together. We call this as cost pool. The technical term here is cost pool. Third step is to identify the drivers for each activity. Very good, Avilipsha. Fourth step is to find out the rate of each activity per driver. And fifth step is to identify the product cost using the rate. So there are 5 steps. You got to remember this. You will need to write that in your case study based questions. activities, cost pool, cost driver, rate, and then activity wise product cost. Okay, now few more facts. As discussed with you, in our absorption costing system, we were assuming all these overheads are fixed in nature. Okay, but here in case of activity based costing, overheads are assumed variable, varying with their cost drivers in the long run, not in the short run. So if cost drivers increase, the overhead cost will increase, and vice versa, varying with cost drivers. Overheads are assumed variable in nature. So there is a question whether overheads are variable cost in activity based costing. The answer is no. See, theoretically, variable cost means those costs that vary with the volume of production. But ours is not varying with volume of production, they are varying with cost drivers. So the answer will be no, overheads are not variable cost because they don't vary with the volume of production, but although they vary with their cost drivers in the long run. So this is how you will have to write the answer. There is another question that whether overheads are relevant cost in activity based costing system. Now what are relevant cost? Since you have not done this concept with me, relevant costing is a separate chapter that I'll do later. Relevant cost means those costs that are incurred only if you make a decision to do something. If you're not doing that, your cost will not be incurred. For instance, for any special order has come from a specific customer. So whatever extra costs that will be incurred because of just that order, those costs are called as relevant cost. So here the question is, are overheads the relevant cost in activity based costing? The answer is no. Answer is no. Why? Because relevant cost means the cost that would be incurred only if you do certain work, otherwise not. But overheads here are all unavoidable. Overheads are unavoidable. That means whether or not you produce anything, you will have to incur overhead cost. So overheads are not relevant cost. If it would have been relevant, it would have been avoidable. Avoidable means if you're not doing anything, it won't be incurred. Our overheads are coming from where? All those rent, electricity, all those costs are not completely avoidable. Alright, our overhead are assumed variable, but they are not called as variable cost. But they are not called as variable cost. Remember, this is very tricky to understand. Next, another I am coming to next point. If I am coming to next point, in case of activity based costing, you must now highlight some merits, and then we will also talk about some demerits. Okay, so what are the merits? Merit is first of all accuracy of cost, accuracy of costing of products. So you know now which product is actually consuming more resources. So what will happen? You remember that limitation, high volume product which is not using much of your resource will now be given only the cost of the resource consumed by them. So their cost will come lower per unit. Okay, so that accuracy will come. If any product is not using any activity, that cost will not be allocated. So accuracy of costing will become, which is very important in the competitive scenario. In competition, you keep selling, you already have headache of selling your goods, and if you have wrong costing, then you will be in very soon bankruptcy stage. In current scenarios, if you see any manufacturing organization, they are producing lakhs of units every day. Okay, they are producing lakhs of units every day. Say the Pepsi Pepsi company that also manufactures this Lay's chips, right? Lay's chips that we eat. You know, Lay's one big packet, 20 rupees packet, is only having 50 grams of chips, and they are manufacturing in one plant more than 20 tons, 30 tons of chips every day. You can imagine the volume Okay, so if there is any distortion in their costing, they will run into lakhs of losses every day. No one will be able to save them later. So accuracy of costing is very important, which can come only through activity-based costing. It also provides us some other useful information about your different kinds of activities or understanding of cost. Useful information like clear understanding of cost relationships as to which activity cost is related to which of the driver. So you know now, okay, this is the cost also which I was never looking into the scene, and now this cost is varying with this kind of driver in the long run. So you are having more clear understanding of your organization cost structure. You don't need to write this. Okay, you don't need to write this. You just need to focus. You just need to focus on what I am sharing. Next, third one after this merits, third one is you also get to know something we call as activity-based management principles. Activity-based management is basically you are now managing the activities and its cost so that you can make more benefits. Managing activity and its cost so that you can make more benefits. And for that you have devoted a team of management. That comes as activity-based management, and it has its some principles that it will do. Activity-based management principles says that you can identify what activities are of no use anymore, non-value adding activities. Non-value adding means for which customer doesn't want to pay you anymore. So you can try to eliminate those activities and save your cost and make that cost savings as a profit, or you may also use that benefit as an opportunity to penetrate the market by lowering the price, by passing that benefit to your customers. Over the years, say shoes, for example, we wear shoes, this 300 rupees shoes, 400 rupees shoes. Now every person in this I think country must be having at least 2 pair of shoes. Previously it was only a luxury thing that only rich people could buy shoes during the independence era. Now why we are all able to wear the shoes? Just because the companies were doing activity-based costing, they were eliminating non-value adding activities continuously and passing that benefit to customers who are the most important stakeholders with whom you should share all your benefits. If you don't, you will lose customers. You cannot keep all the benefits of removing non-value adding activities to yourself. Say currently in our product cost also we are having this huge infrastructure cost that we are having for face-to-face classes. But gradually in pandemic we realize that now students don't want to come to face-to-face classes. So we will get rid of this non-value adding activity later on, and the savings that we'll have will be either our profit or we will pass it on to our students by way of some added features on our products, or maybe by some kind of fees reduction. So non-value adding activities can be identified and eliminated. That is ABM principle, which is coming through activity-based costing. We also get to know which product we should make in long run, product designing, which will consume least of activities. Today my product is having 3 activities. Why should I make my product with 3 activities? If I know that I have to reduce the activity cost, then I can think of some products which will only require 2 activities. So product designing, it can help me to understand the profitability of my product and customers. Which product is giving me best profit, which customer is making me earn more profit, so I can decide to continue or discontinue any product later on. Okay, whether I should continue or discontinue with any product or not. One more, it also helps me when I do activity-based costing. I know now precisely which activity requires what cost, and I can also do some analysis like what are the resources we will use to do this activity. So resource identification would be there. And then what happens in large organization, many times you need to do something, and for that you need to have something. For example, even to file your return, you need a computer in hand, you need some paper to write down some workings, you need some calculator, sometimes you need internet connection, you need these resources on which we incur cost. If we have activity-based planning, then we know that which activity requires which set of resources, and on time what resources would be needed, at what cost they would be needed. We will be able to identify that resource, timely obtain that resource and give that resource to activity team, so that that resource is executed well, the activity is executed well on time. So I feel one more best advantage is resource allocation on time is more timely now. Okay, that is one of the merit of your activity based costing, but it has got its criticisms also, limitations also. What are the criticisms? First of all, activity based costing is a costly exercise, it is a complex exercise, it can only benefit in long term, not for short term. Not for short term. Say you got very excited, now activity based costing system is there, wow, very nice. So let us now change our activity based costing system for the upcoming product, which will only have a life of 2 years. There will be no benefit. Why? Because it will only have a life of 2 years. You cannot implement and take advantage of activity based costing in such a short span of time. So not for short term, it is costly, it is complex, not for single product company. If it is, then it is just a waste. If you are producing varieties, then only you are worried about what is the cost actually you are incurring in different varieties, not for single product. There are difficulties in identifying activities. It is a difficult task. What will be my activities? How will it be grouped? In factories, you cannot stop everything and go for identifying the activities. It is all done while the production is continuously going on. So it is a challenging task. Then how to accumulate its cost. Then difficulties in tracing cost drivers. Sometimes one activity can be related to multiple cost drivers. For that we don't have anything in our study. One activity may have multiple cost drivers. Okay. So that is again a challenging task in order to identify proper allocation for such kind of activities. It is usually very cumbersome. In that case, the only solution is you have to break the activities into different drivers basis like that. Next, activity is actually demolishing the concept of department. If that is done, you will study with me in a different chapter later on something called as bottleneck department. Now, bottleneck department is basically a department that has least capacity among all other departments. Say department A is having this much capacity and B is having only this much capacity. So you cannot produce anything more than what B can produce, because if anything has to be produced, it has to pass from both A and B. A is having extra capacity, B is not having capacity. So how can you produce whatever A can produce? You have to go by what only B can produce. The capacity which regulates the entire flow is called as bottleneck capacity. Bottleneck department is that department which has least capacity. So department concept cannot be abolished. If you are abolishing department concept, you won't be able to trace the bottleneck department, and that will create a lot of challenge in your production planning as to how much we should produce in a particular period. So concept of department cannot be completely ignored. This is one very important limitation. Moreover, you remember control accounts. When we were transferring production department goods to warehouse, we could pass an accounting entry, finished goods control account debit to WIP control account. But there is no such accounting entry for activity wise flow. Activities are sometimes seen as independent activities. Many a times they are not always connected like departments were interconnected. So accounting is also a problem in activity based costing system. Accounting is also a problem. There is no well noted accounting system with activity based costing. So anyhow, even after these criticisms, we felt that it is still worth it in order to fight the competition, in order to price the different varieties of products that are coming from large scale complex operations. So anyhow, it is worth it. Okay. So just lastly, I want to discuss one more point that what Robert Kaplan did to help us to understand activity based costing more better. He helped us by grouping these activities into four main categories. Okay, types of activities. We are calling them as types of activities. That was just conceptualized for understanding activities in a better way. And when they say activities, it covers all the cost. Previously, you remember, absorption costing only takes up the overheads cost, but activities covers all the cost. Even when we are saying types of activities, it is also covering direct material and direct labor cost. Here we have four names: unit level, batch level, product level, and facility level. So to remember this, you have to remember mini to maxi, that means micro to macro. Say unit level activity means, say this is a product that I produce in my factory, a use and throw pen, and for this pen, if I am producing 10,000 units, there will be some cost, but if I am producing 11,000 units, there will be extra cost. Another 1,000 units cost will come. Usually those costs are variable costs which I discussed with you, like material labor. So you can say material labor is my unit level activity. It covers all the costs. Don't just block your mind with overheads. Then what is batch level? Many times we don't produce a specific product unit wise, we produce it in a specific lot size, and the cost will be incurred depending on the number of lots, not depending on the number of units inside the lot. So if say we are producing say 1000 units in one lot and we are having 10 such lots, so since we are having 10 lots, there will be cost. Now if we are producing 11 lots, so for 11th lot there will be one additional cost. So that cost, which is only coming due to having one extra lot, it doesn't matter how many units are there inside that lot, then that cost is called as batch level activity. Example can be setup cost. Third, product level activity is, you may include one more product with your product. Say this is a digital pen and this is a use and throw paper pen. So if I'm adding digital pen in my domain, in my portfolio, okay, so I will be having some specific cost which will be identifiable with this product, which has come because of this product, into my scene. So it can be some kind of designing cost of this pen, it can be some dice or mold cost of this pen, some specific advertisement. So designing cost, advertisement cost of this product. Okay, now advertisement is a selling cost, but activities are covering all the cost. Facility is basically the whole of infrastructure whereby you're doing everything. For example, the cost of rent, the cost of power, all those come under facility cost. So you can think of your activities in these heads. These are just the segregation of different activities in different groups. Then last thing, there was another understanding for types of cost drivers. For cost drivers, there are four names that you need to understand. First two are structural and executional. Now what are structural and executional? Structural cost drivers are those cost drivers which are going to continue with you for a long period of time because of the nature of the facility that you have created. Say if you have planned to do all the work in your company by using heavy machineries in your factory, all heavy machineries have been planned, so that planning cannot be done today or tomorrow. That is a one-time planning that you need to do when your facility is being set up. Now because of that kind of setup, the structure that you have created in your organization, you commit to certain kind of cost which you cannot avoid now, and there will be drivers for that cost. So those cost drivers are structural cost drivers. So like plant construction cost, for example, usually think of those costs that will be a one-time cost in any company. For example, plant construction cost. Plant means the whole of facility. We also call the entire factory as a plant. We call a machine also as a plant, you know this. So the plant construction cost or facility construction cost, that is the one-time cost, and that will be dependent on the number of machineries that you are using. So the number of machineries is a cost driver, which is because of the structure of the organization that you are creating, and that cannot be changed for a long period of time. Executional cost drivers are dependent on the way of working post the structure has been set. For example, the inspection cost. The inspection cost is an activity that is executional, that will come only once you start executing your work inside the structure. Okay, so the driver for inspection cost can be inspection hours. So inspection hours are what? Inspection hours are what? Are executional cost drivers. Those are driving inspection cost. The drivers that drives the cost which will be incurred while execution, those are executional cost drivers. Structural cost drivers are those cost drivers which drives one-time structure based cost. Okay, the next is resource and activity cost driver. Resource and activity cost driver. So what are resource cost drivers? Say you have learned with me that primary and secondary distribution among the activities. See here, these are your activities. Okay, these are your activities. You are allocating certain cost to activities now. So there will be certain basis for allocation and apportionment to your activities. For example, you are allocating rent cost to your activities. You are allocating rent cost to your activities, and activity name is called as, say, receiving of materials. Receiving of materials. Activity name is receiving. The cost is rent, which will be first apportioned to activities. The basis used for this is called as resource cost driver. Example of this driver can be floor area, which you all know by overhead concept. So the overhead concept gives us some basis for allocating cost or apportioning cost. Rent is divided in floor area, electricity is divided in kilowatt hours. So that is resource cost driver. Now once the cost comes under the head of activity, that activity cost will be divided into your cost of products. So you will be using some driver here to divide your cost of activity to the product. Now this will depend on the nature of activity. This is called as activity cost driver. Example can be number of receipts. Example can be number of receipts. Depends on the activity. Receiving department is basically receiving the material. So how many times the materials have been received? You are keeping a note of this. To implement activity based costing system, you need to change your information system, because information system means how you are keeping record of all the information. Because if you don't keep a record of number of receipts, how will you get the driver of receiving activity? So there are some costly exercises to implement activity based costing. Let us just have a quick look on what I shared with you. You see, first, product cost statement under activity based costing. See, it is saying that support activities or activity costs tend to vary in the long term according to range and complexity of the products rather than the volume of output. It varies according to range and complexity of the product, not as per the volume of output. Okay. So here you are charging the cost on the basis of product usage of the cost driver. So if any product is not using any cost driver of an activity, then such activity cost won't be charged to the product. So there is a cost sheet, material, labor, prime cost you can still write, that doesn't matter. Then factory overheads are coming now, see, activity wise instead of department wise. Okay. Next, steps of implementing ABC we discussed. You need to find activities, then cost pool is the common cost of related activities or total cost of each of the activity. Then cost drivers are the basis that drives the cost. Then absorption rate for each activity and overhead cost to products. Classification we discussed, unit level, batch level, product level, facility level. So whatever I discuss you can read over here. This is for self reading I am leaving. You should give time after the class to do this self reading. Types of cost driver, just now I discussed. In general, cost driver for short-term overhead cost may be the volume. For any short-term overhead cost, you can use volume as cost driver, but for long-term overhead cost, that means the costs that are going to incur continuously, you should not use volume of output as cost driver. That will depend on the type of activity. So we have resource and activity cost driver. Okay. Some of the examples are given just for your knowledge purpose, that what can be the activity cost and what can be their related drivers. You should read. Just for example, receiving material is number of purchase order, or we call as number of receipts. Setting up machine is number of setup. Machining cost is machine hours. Assembling cost is number of parts. You don't need to mug it up, just for glance, because question actually gives us always the right direction on what we can use. So this is an illustration which I also had drawn. You don't need to write anything. I just am proving with these notes that everything is all well written here. You just focus on listening so that it goes directly in your brain. When you are writing, it gets deviated that you're not retaining anything. You just keep on writing them. Okay, so this overhead cost, when allocated to activities, it is resource cost driver. And when activity cost is allocated to product, it is by using activity cost driver. Then we have structural cost driver and executional cost driver. It is jumping too much today for the reason that I don't know. Structural cost drivers, example can be plant construction cost, which is a one-time cost. If you plan to produce multiple products, so there can be some kind of department which will be only thinking on what product we will produce when, which will call as number of product scheduling. So multiple products related setup cost is there, a different kind of setup cost. An activity may be influenced by multiple cost driver also. Okay, so this is also written here. Why? Because I am showing you different names for each activity, that's why. So executional cost drivers are related to execution of business activities, your utilization of employees, provision of quality, how you want to use your employees, how much quality you are giving into your product, what kind of product design and manufacturing you are doing. So it can be basic inspection cost, movement cost. These are only the basic activities that usually a company needs to do when producing a product, regular routine activities. So for that, drivers are number of inspection, number of material movements. Okay, then merits are there. It facilitates understanding of all the drivers of the cost. It is concerned with all overhead costs, not just the factory overheads. It's more accurate and reliable. It provides cost data which may be used to evaluate different ways of doing the business. How you should do the business later on, you can evaluate that by identifying non-value adding activities. Non-value adding can be eliminated. Okay. Then it helps you to do profitability analysis of products, customers. It helps you to understand which product should you promote or discontinue. Pricing of complex products. Then it gives you more opportunities for cost reduction. Ideas, maybe changing the design of the product, maybe eliminating an activity altogether. Criticisms are identifying activities, then how to trace costs, then drivers, then how much driver a product will consume. That is also a typical thing to identify. Then sometimes a single cost driver may not actually reflect the entire cost of activity, because an activity can have multiple cost driver. Cost of implementing ABC is huge. It can sometimes surpass the benefits. It is not for short-term decisions, not for single or small range of products. You must have a purpose of using ABC, else you will lose a lot of money, because ABC provides a lot of extra information which should be useful for all of us. You know that I also talked about activity-based management principles and some resource allocation feature. That resource allocation feature is actually activity-based budgeting, and activity-based management I will take up later, which I will take up later in next session, where I'll again discuss about some of the advantages of ABC, which have become a more scientific study called as activity-based management. I've also discussed with you about this. Is activity based cost a variable cost? Answer is no. Why? Because variable costs are dependent on volume. It is not dependent on volume, though it is variable, but on cost drivers. So you have to write the answer like this, like it is not a variable cost like traditional variable cost that varies directly with the production volume, though cost driver may influence the total cost of an activity. It is not a relevant cost because it is not avoidable. Got it? So until now, whatever I discussed, I have shown all written well here. I'm giving you some home task from our workbook. If you have not received, as I already shared, that you can download this from your dashboard. If you have received, this is the workbook, the thin one, thinnest of all. Here questions are already solved. I'm giving you one task of practicing the allocation, try to see how the cost is allocated over there. Some basic sums are there which may not be directly relevant for your exam, but important for your concept clarification. So we have here question 1, 2, 3 I will do with you in my next session. I want to do 3 with you, then 4, and then 5. Please attempt these questions by your own. Make a copy, solve this question and check the answer. You need not solve with too much of presentation. Just try to attempt in your copy activity based costing workbook solutions. Okay, question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and see where you go wrong. Try to attempt yourself. Solution are also there. It will clarify your understanding for today's session. We'll continue this tomorrow. Okay, so that's all with today's class. I hope you understood everything well. If you have any queries, you can put in chat, or if any query comes later on, you can ask me tomorrow as well. Our classes are always scheduled on time. Please do add yourself in the Telegram group for any kind of emergency update from us. Okay, do not mix yourself with Hindi or English. Okay, so if you have missed today's session by chance, if you miss any tomorrow's session by chance, then you can always do its video backup. You don't need to come in live class of Hindi batch. All right, I hope your time was useful today. Thank you so much for being so wonderful students. If any question, then you can type in chat, or else you can say just thank you. Jay Shankar has said previously, now work from home culture is practicing all over the world. How the activity based costing be practical? So you need to identify what all activities that you were doing are no longer required permanently in long run. Always think from long term perspective. So I already shared one example with you about face-to-face classes. If say setup of face-to-face classes not required in long term, no students are coming, we cannot take any decision with activity based costing in a short term time. For long term, we are able to see, okay, this activity is having this much cost and it is no longer required, so we can pass on the benefits to our students. Thank you Abhilipsha, thank you Vijitesh. Alright, so I shall take your leave now. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Good night. Take care. Sayonara. Shabba khair. Bye guys. Bye bye. See you soon. Okay. Bye bye. Bye.